What is up, guys and gals? It is I, Boise, the Fell-Handed. I am a little sick, getting over a little sickness here, as you can tell. So we're trying to make it happen. We're we're not 100%. We're a solid 60, maybe 65. It just depends. But you know, we got to get this video out here. I know a lot of folks want to see this, want to see the Boise, want to see what's happening with it. And it's a good ship. This is the very first game in it. We have Michael Scott as Jefe. He's out there. He and Dwight Schrute are out there making things happen. Now, this particular vessel here, folks, has a lot flatter arc than, say, for example, the Hotlanta, because that's kind of what I use as a baseline, of course, the Hotlanta. Now, of course, they say, you know, don't be caught broadside to anybody. Yeah, that goes for any ship, any game, period. Don't ever be caught broadside. So that's kind of a you know, it seems a little goofy to me. That was in the actual description, I think, when I read. I don't know. Maybe I'm lying. Maybe I just made it all up. But anyway, the idea here, though, folks, is, you know, if you're not posted up near islands making some things happen, you're not cruising right. And you know, granted, I know we all get impatient, and you know, you may lack that gun range, and you're like, I need to come outside of this island and start my reign of hatred. And I totally get it. I am totally with you there. Now, this thing does not have a lot of turrets. However, it does have a lot of guns, if that makes sense. So we've got numerous guns per turret. Now, that also being said, is when you lose a turret, it is a big deal. But, I mean, granted, of course, you know, this is Tier 6. So, Tier 6, Tier 7, when you lose a turret, it tends to be a big deal, just in general. You know, not necessarily on this per se. I'm just, you know, whenever I think of turret, lose turret, like, the first thing that pops in my head is Iowa. And I'm trying to, like, deal with it and get that out of my head, because that's immediately what I'm thinking of. But we do actually lose a turret the very first game in this particular vessel. But for the most part, we are doing our job, which is, you know, mainly harassing DDs and support fire. And don't think, I see a lot of guys out there, they get in the Pensacola's, the Baltimore's, New Orleans, what have you, and the Japanese and the rest in the other cruisers. I just, you know, I'm an American, so that's all that came to mind. But I see a lot of folks get out there and they get these cruisers and they try to go out there and get up in the grind with these other battleships, and they just get decorated. And granted, you know, I see a lot of people really get some impressive maneuvers in some of these cruisers, but you know what? They end up getting connected with eventually. So just make sure that's not you. Now, granted, of course, I am doing, you know, the one thing I said don't do, you know, leave cover. We're leaving cover here to come and fire on this gentleman. We're putting rounds on him here, and we, you know, we couldn't get any shots from where we're at. We decided to had to move out. You know, if you're sitting there, guys, 30-45 seconds, and you're not having any shots, or no one has come to contend a position that you're posted up at, you need to just go ahead and get the heck out of there. Go ahead, get the heck out of there, go do something else. You know, do something even if it's wrong, because you don't want to fall victim to inaction. And that's kind of, you know, that's kind of a holdover from the world of tank days as well. You know, you never want to suffer from inaction. But, and the plan was here, folks, is when I'm in a decently quick firing vessel, such as this, the Atlanta, what have you, and I've got the guns on target, I'm just raining in shells after shells, I steer with the mini-map in the top left-hand corner. And I recommend you should do as well. You should too, as well. You you should steer by the minimap. That's what I'm trying to say. But, you know, essentially so you can keep the gun on target. Now, granted, you know, it would behoove one to kind of back out of the scope from time to time, just to kind of get a good idea on the situational awareness, see what's going on. Because you don't necessarily want to be getting yourself in a position you can't really walk out of. Now, I believe I was kind of touching on the subject earlier about the turrets. Each turret holds 3 barrels, and they are 150 millimeter, if believe I'm correct. So it's larger than the Atlanta, but smaller than some of your big-time cruisers. You know, Pensacola is something would be considered a heavy cruiser. I'm not sure what the Boise's considered. If it were up to me, I think it'd be considered light, and I'm pretty sure I think that's what it is considered. And they don't necessarily base, you know, cruisers, you know, whether it's considered heavy or light based off of armor. They base it off of armament, what type of guns, you know, what have you. Now, kind of going back into the whole cruiser business, just because, you know, you're in a heavy cruiser, it doesn't mean you need to go out there and just get right out in the middle and start taking rounds. And you normally kind of see that around tier 4, sometimes tier 5. Very rarely you'll kind of see that in the higher tiers. Somebody just kind of going out there. And you know, this is my old standby. You know, you always want to fight someone who is engaged. That is the perfect time to be fighting someone, because they don't care about you. And that goes for anybody across the board. It doesn't matter what class of ship you play. If you fight someone while they're engaged, they're not going to be super worried about you. Now, granted, of course, this gentleman right here wasn't engaged. We were just kind of, you know, didn't really have a whole lot of options as far as what we could shoot at. But, you know, it's getting towards end game, and I said, wow, the guns are okay, but you're not going to stack tons and tons of damage as you are, you know, going to, for example, be like the Pensacola. We're going to do a whole lot of alpha. This is definitely a DPM type machine, and it doesn't necessarily have the blistering speed of fire as does the Atlanta, so you kind of have to make all your shots count. Now, granted, of course, we're not going to try to run AP on the side of battleships. You know, maybe if they got really close, we could run some AP, but I don't necessarily think 150 millimeters is going to make any kind of difference on the side of a battleship. Maybe a French, but that's about it. For the most part, I would stick with high explosive on this, just simply because, you know, that's probably going to be your best bet. You're going to have the most luck with high X on this particular ship. At any rate, moving on. And what you want to do, guys, is anytime you're late game like this is really the time you want to rush with everybody else and try to really stack some damage. You know, because someone is definitely going to be engaged, unless, you know, you're hunting for that last DD. But for the most part, people are going to be discovered. There's going to be a very good idea where they're at, and they're going to be in trouble. So that's kind of what you need to capitalize on. You need to go out there and stack some damage. Now, you know, if you look at this game, for example, from the outside in, it's in game. We've only got 36K. Now, that's okay, but I feel like we could do better. So that's exactly what we're doing. We're going to go rush and see. Once we get in range, we're going to just start raining down on some bad guys here. Just to simply just stack that additional damage. If we take a little bit of damage in that process, that's fine. If it gets to the point where, you know, there's a chance, you know, he may sink us, then we're going to back off a little bit. Obviously, before that happens, before it gets to that point of no return. But we know for a fact, going head to head here, we can DPM him. He is spamming high X at us for some reason. But, you know, and that's fine. I don't judge anybody by what they shoot, you know. a lot of times Hayeks will end up taking you out faster than AP will. But the point is you know, we can take some Hayeks. We've got some health. We can really, you know, take a little bit of a beating there while we kind of tank this guy and soak up all of his damage there. Put it into our little bank in the top right-hand corner. Now, you know, this may or may not work, because depending on your kind of shape the ship is in at the end of the game, you may be really, really lacking. But, you know, you kind of just have to set it up that way. 50,000 damage, not necessarily setting the world on fire, but you know what? We're making our presence known. We are going to try to back up here, go full reverse, and just kind of stick the stern section of the ship into the cap section. Get any kind of points we can, but it doesn't necessarily look like it's going to happen. It looks like the game is going to be over here before there's anything we can do about it. But you know what? We managed to get 2 kills, get some defended ribbons, set a bunch of fires, and shot a bunch of folks. And that's what it all comes down to. You have to do your part, and I feel like that's what we've done. You know, was it a 100,000 damage game? No. But we had fun, and we tried out a new ship, and I enjoyed myself thoroughly. 50,000 damage, 134. Made quite a little bit of change there, guys, right there at the bottom left. Folks, I really hope you enjoyed this. Make sure to like, subscribe, and share, and we will see you folks next time.